Thank you so much for joining me today. It's really cool because you and I started this sweet friendship on Instagram. From what I remember, I was just publicly starting out my journey, and then I don't know if you were doing it at the same time, but it felt like it was happening at the same time.
Yep.
And to root each other on, and
Mhm.
now to come this kind of come
Full
back
circle. Yeah.
full circle, and not saying we're done yet at all, but it's pretty cool to see where we are in our journey.
Mhm.
So thank
Our
you,
stories
Tamar,
are
for being here.
very different, but we like still started out kind of at the same time, and it was kind of cool to see you go through your stuff. And yours is very different because I didn't do IVF or anything like that, but we still had our own like things that we had to do. So it was very different, but it
Right,
was cool
right.
to see each other.
And what I love about this series or this project of what I'm doing is that I'm talking to women all over, who have, got pregnant with IUIs, who didn't do any infertility treatments, who suffered from all kinds of things. And, at the root of it, it's all just women dealing with infertility. So yeah, people are gonna get a lot from hearing your story. So with that said, let's get into it. Um,
Awesome.
take take us back to your journey before it started. How old were you when you found out you needed help, or maybe when you started feeling like I think I might need help? Take it from there.
Mine was slightly traumatic. So I think I was around 25. I can't remember exactly how old I was. I'm 34. I know you can't tell, but I'm 34, and so I think I was around 25 ish when I was living. I was renting a room from a friend of mine and her sister. And so another friend as well, we all decided to try to work out and everything because I started gaining a lot of weight and I was like, I don't understand why I'm gaining weight so fast. This doesn't make any sense. And so all of us were eating the same food. We were working out at least 4 times a week. We would all go together. And so we would like do like a weigh in at the end because we were watching The Biggest Loser at the time. We would all like watch that. And so at the end of the week, we do a weigh in, and I was the only one that was gaining weight. And it didn't
Mhm.
make any sense to me. And I was like, why am I gaining weight? I'm working out. We're eating sticks and berries. Like, why am I like gaining weight? It doesn't make any sense. And so the lady I was renting the room from, she was just like, have you gone to an OB at all? Like, have you had a checkup yet? I was like, I haven't done that, and I haven't had any like lab work done in a long, long time. So let me go do that. So I finally went to an OBGYN, and like, okay, there is this experience this in doctor's offices and stuff, but sometimes being a woman of color, you walk into the doctor's office and they kind of treat you like, eh, whatever. Like, and so I kind of at first got the, well, you should exercise thing. And I was like, hmm, I don't think, let me pull out my log of all the things
Right.
that we're doing. Like, what do you mean? And so, so then got all my labs done and everything. And it came back that I had polycystic ovary syndrome. And so I was like, okay. So when she said that to me, um, I didn't hear anything else. All I heard in my mind was, I'm not going to be able to have kids. That's the first
Mhm.
thing that popped into my head. The rest of it sounded like the teacher from the Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. I couldn't hear her at all. She was answering all the questions I probably had, but I didn't hear her. I was just staring at her like, what? And so this is well before I meet my husband, well before we're even like thinking about I'm thinking about like, okay, I got to find a man first. So at that point, I just knew that I was gonna need help when it was time. Um, but at the time, they weren't addressing any of the other issues like the weight gain and all of the other symptoms that go with it. So I'm just trying to live and like make sure that I'm not gaining too much weight and all this other stuff. They told me that my thyroid levels were a little weird, but they didn't address that. Like they didn't tell me how important that was at all. Um, and they didn't even put me on medication or anything like that. So that got worse and worse. And so by the time I do find my husband and we do want to, like, start our little family and stuff like that, we got married February 2016, the end of February, and I found out I was pregnant on his birthday, is Cinco de Mayo. And so I was just like, oh wow, like what? Like I didn't expect to be pregnant at all. Um, but then a few weeks later, I was almost 9 weeks or so, and I miscarried and everything. And that part was like really hard too because it lasted for a long time, and it seemed like every time I walked into the doctor's office, because to them I wasn't pregnant anymore, they wouldn't return my phone calls. They wouldn't return my, like, I would call them to ask about my numbers and my labs and everything. And, so it was hard because I was trying to grieve, but I couldn't grieve because physically I was still going through everything. And so that between finding out I had PCOS and that first miscarriage, which lasted like 2 months, not supposed to last that long, um, it was like really hard to like cope with, okay, am I gonna ever be able to have kids? Like what's going on here? And no one would answer my questions. They would just, you need to lose weight. That's it. That's all they would say to me.
So that's not helpful at all.
No.
So did you have an option to do a DNC, or I mean, did they give you that option at all?
I asked for that and they did not want to do it because it was my first pregnancy and they didn't want to cause any scarring and things like that. Fast forward to 2019, I ended up having a DNC because I had a fibroid inside of my uterus, and which I didn't know I had that either. There were so many things that I could have found out prior to having my baby now that I like it took years for them to find. And one thing I do want to say is anyone watching this, your male counterpart needs to get tested for all the things too. Because then we found out that he had things that he had low testosterone and he had to get like a booster shot for that. There were so many things that we had to find out within 4.5 years. And 4.5 years, technically, if you, I mean, especially compared to you, it's not that long. But at the same time, it feels like forever
It
to have
does.
to find out all of the things and then like realize, okay, if I knew this before, my 5 miscarriages that I had before may not have happened. And so coping with that is like when you feel like a walking casket, it is it's so hard to like you get pregnant and then you're like, okay, am I gonna keep this one? Is this baby gonna like can I have this one? Am I gonna be able to bring this one home? And and then there are times where it's like especially with this with Cecilia, I did not think like at the beginning, I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to be excited at all. I didn't want like we were excited, but in the back of my head, I didn't want to be excited because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. And bless God that she's here and that she, is thriving. She's healthy and all the other stuff because we, finally addressed all the issues that
Right.
that we know about now because you never know if there's
Right.
anything. But for the most part, we got it
So
all.
you got married in 2016. You quickly got pregnant, and
Mhm.
then it just kept happening.
Yeah, so we had our first miscarriage like I found out beginning of May. Middle of May is when it like started. Um if like physically I was finally done with it by like July 10th ish. Um which like I said it was horrifying and traumatic because I had to do cytotech. Um
Oh,
and
I took
yeah,
that.
yeah, you did. So imagine having to deal with that at home by yourself. I had to do it twice. And so I
No.
went through all of those little, like the labor pains and stuff. And now that I've gone through labor and before the epidural, I can say that what I experienced was very much early labor when I was going through that
Mm.
miscarriage. And I had to do it
Wow.
twice. And they didn't want to give me a DNC. And then they wanted me to do it a third time. And I said no. I'm not doing it. I'm just going to see what my body does and try to have it happen naturally. And about a week later, finally everything passed and I was able to like finally grieve because we
Yeah.
hadn't like during that time we couldn't. I felt like I couldn't anyway. So
Right.
then after that, I got pregnant again in October, and we miscarried. Like we had like a chemical pregnancy in October, and then November, same thing. And so then
Wow.
2 years later, the exact same, well, not the exact same months, it was like September and November, but it was 2 years later around the time. So I'm mentally like, why is this happening again? And then around the same time. And
Mm.
so that was hard. So that was 2018 after we had gotten here. And so then 2019, early 2019, I found out, or my OB here, which I found some better doctors here. Uh,
Good.
it was hard to find them here, but I did find some better doctors. And so they finally were like, okay, well, let's go ahead and um, refer you to a reproductive endocrinologist. Mind you, this is like 3.5 years later after all the things.
That's what I was going
Um,
to ask you. Like, did you consider moving or, changing doctors or, what happened in the
well, yeah,
process? Did you get tests?
in the middle of that, um, we moved here, so a lot of it was on pause, and then insurance and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing I forgot to mention was after that third miscarriage, I got my thyroid tested again. And so the normal levels for your thyroid is 0.45 to 4.5. I was 15. So my thyroid was like underactive, not working. And that was why I was gaining so much weight so quickly.
Oh my
And so like
gosh.
it was why I couldn't lose weight. So PCOS will help make you gain weight, and that hypothyroidism will like keep you from losing weight because of your brain thinks, oh, I need to keep everything. And so I'm like,
Wow.
oh, okay, that is why things have been going on. And so then the doctor was like, it's very possible that your thyroid is part of the reason why you've been miscarrying. So I didn't find that out. And they would not test my thyroid, by the way, until after
That's
my third
crazy.
miscarriage. I asked them to test my thyroid. I was like, I know they said there was something going on with my thyroid before, but they didn't put me on medication. Can you test my thyroid? Oh, we don't think that that's the issue. Just lose weight. I'm like, are you kidding me? There are overweight people who, plus size women who have babies all the time. There can't be there has to be more to this, and that was
Yeah.
what I was. And there has to be something else going on. So not until after my third miscarriage is when they tested my thyroid, and lo and behold, my thyroid was not doing anything, and they thought that I had a goiter or anything, something like that, or that I might have had Hashimoto's, but it's just that my thyroid is what the doctor called sick and just not working. And so with PCOS and hypothyroidism, them two working against me, I carrying a child to term was just not like unless I regulated one or both of them wasn't possible. In between there, I was put on 75 micrograms of levothyroxine, and so I was on that for a couple years, and they kept telling me I was normal. I was at the normal level, which I didn't know what normal was, but I was actually at like a 7.
Oh wow.
4.5 is the highest for normal. I thought that that was normal because that's what they were telling me. Ladies, please advocate for yourself. Do your own research
Yes.
because if you don't
Yes.
know what's normal and what's not, I had to when they referred me to a reproductive endocrinologist. Both Derek and I went. He got his testing done, and they did like my thyroid levels again, and they were like, we can't do anything for you until you get your thyroid level corrected. I said, well, I'm on the medication. They told me I was within normal range. And he said, I'm an endocrinologist. He said it just like that. I'm an endocrinologist. You're not within normal. I was like, okay. So I had to go back to my primary care to,
Okay.
get him to up my dose of levothyroxine. And so he says to me, "Oh no, you're within normal." I said, "No." The endocrinologist said the RE said no, and he said, "Oh, you trying to have a baby or something?"
Wow.
I said,
How frustrating.
what? You trying to have a baby or something? I thought we were trying to lose weight. And I'm like, sir. I said, that's the point. That's the reason I made this appointment is to so that you can so that I can get fertility treatment and things like that, or see what I need, and which was
Wow.
ridiculous. So he said, well, I don't think you need to raise your dose. And I said, okay, this is a way that you can advocate for yourself. Always ask for a letter. If they say
Mm,
no, ask for a letter. And that is
that's
what I
good.
did. I said, okay, I need you to write a letter saying that you're not going to raise my dose for levothyroxine so that I can take that to the RE, who is the, specialist on thyroids. I don't know. I'm going to tell him what you said, and you're going to, so that he can go ahead and start my whatever we're going to do. So then he's like, oh, okay, I'll get the letter. I was like, okay. I go to in the little waiting room, and I wait probably for about 10, 15 minutes. And the nurse calls me back and she's like, I'm going to go ahead and raise your dose to this level. I said,
Good
oh,
one.
okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Ask for
Wow.
a letter because then they'll start changing their tune because then they have to hold themselves accountable at that point. So you ask for a letter or you ask them to make sure you mark it in your chart. Whatever it is, mark it in the chart, ask for a letter because that's the only way that they're going to hold themselves accountable because they're going to have to go back and look at that or someone else is going to be calling them and holding them accountable as well. So my RE would have been like, sir. so
Wow.
so once it was crazy because I kept telling them that like I was a zombie around here. Like even on the 75 microgram or not 75, I was on 50. That's what it was. Even on the 50 micrograms that I was on, I was like a zombie. I couldn't do anything. I was tired all the time. They put me on the 75 and it was like night and day. My husband was like, "Can you sit down? Because you're doing the
Too
most."
much.
I was like, "I can finally think straight. What do you mean? Like, let me clean my house." Like,
Yes.
so finally, like after he got his testing done, and his first of all, he was so proud of his numbers. He,
Aren't they always?
I'm like, what in the world? His numbers were like 90 million or something. I can't remember. It was like well over what it was supposed to be. It was just that they were there and they were marching. They just weren't marching fast enough because of his
Mm,
testosterone levels. So
okay.
we we went the first month that he got his booster, and my thyroid levels were regular, and I had also had surgery because I had the fibroid. I had a SHG to for them to see whether or not I had anything going on, and so I did have a fibroid, so I had to
Mhm.
have surgery April 2019. So that's yeah, last year.
Was was that
So
a what, laparoscopy or hysteroscopy?
yeah, it was a hysteroscopy. They didn't have to go through my stomach. They just went. It was pretty much a DNC, but then they
Okay.
found more growths in there as well. So they found
Wow.
the main fibroid, but then I had like I wish I had the pictures with me, but you couldn't see my fallopian tubes at all. Like
Oh,
I just
wow.
had so much going on in there, and so it was like the baby could be created and could possibly implant, but it wasn't going to be on my my uterine wall to where it was going to be viable or that the baby would grow. And so I was like, okay, that explains so much. So
Yes.
PCOS, my thyroid, and my uterus just had all kind. I had a whole jungle in my uterus. So
Yeah.
they cleared all of that out, and which the my OB was saying that it's possible that the reason why I had so much all the growth and stuff in my uterus could have been because of that first miscarriage where they did not clear everything out.
Wow.
So I was just like, oh great, how about that? So
Yeah.
so then March he had his first booster. I was on the right level of levothyroxine, and I was also on my sixth round of letrozole. I had started doing letrozole um, 6 months prior to that. he hadn't had his little testosterone booster until March. That's the month we get pregnant.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, wow. So for those who don't know what letrozole is, what does that do for you?
That is a medication that helps you ovulate. And so I took letrozole on day 3 through 7, I think it was. Yeah,
Okay.
cycle day 3 through 7. And so then on cycle day 14, I ovulated. And that was another thing going on because of my PCOS. My cycle wasn't regular. It was regular enough, sort of. Like I would have one every month, but it could be at any time in the month because my like I would have that 14, what was supposed to be 14 days, cycle day 14 where I would ovulate. I might ovulate on cycle day 21, and so then 2 weeks after that my period would come. And so
Okay.
instead of my cycle being regular, it would be kind of all over the place. And so my OB was like, all right, let's put you on letrozole so that you can ovulate on time. We were supposed to do IUI, but we were like, okay, let's just wait and see what the letrozole does. And so then when we got his numbers back, we were like, oh, okay. So we both knew a little bit of help. It wasn't just me all this time.
Yes, good to know.
Yeah. So we finally did all of that, and now we have Cece.
Oh, oh, and she is so sweet.
She's
Sweet
like,
Cece.
she is like a little model sometimes. I'm like, how are you just going to sleep in all these little
And it just gets better. I don't know about you, but like already, my phone is just full of baby pictures
no,
and videos.
seriously. Like I see what they say now. Like you don't take a picture of yourself anymore. It's all her. Just
It's
pictures
true.
on
It's
pictures.
true. You
Yeah.
work so hard for her, how could it not be that way?
I know. I'm like, I'm using a new app though called Keepsake. I know that there's no ad or nothing, but they send you like a text message like every day of a memory, and what happens is like you answer the text message, and then you go on the app and you fill in the picture, and then you can order a book later on. So I just started that, and so I'm like, okay,
I
now I'm gonna so like next Christmas I'm gonna be able to like have books for people and stuff like that. So
That's a great idea. I'm gonna do that. I'm
yeah,
gonna do that after we get off this call.
the link to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I would love to do something like that.
Mhm.
So, how many losses did you have to go through before you found some answers?
Before we found a lot of answers along the way. So the first time we actually got answers that I had to beg for was after the third miscarriage. They
Okay.
wouldn't do certain testing until you had 3 miscarriages, which
Okay.
I was kind of glad that they considered my chemical pregnancies as miscarriages. Um, they called them chemical pregnancies, but I was about 5 weeks. And so usually the chemical pregnancy portion is like 4 weeks and earlier or whatever, but they still
Yeah.
call them chemical pregnancies. And so but they considered them miscarriages, which I was glad after the fact because I was able to get answers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I had to beg for them because, like I said, I was asking them to test my thyroid, and they wouldn't. They were just like, "No, we're not going to do that.
Mm.
You just need to lose weight." That. So it was about 3 miscarriages before I started getting answers, and then as
Wow.
time went on, we got more and more answers.
Wow. It's crazy. Sometimes it just takes the right person, in your path. But thankfully, with the move, you were forced to find somebody new, and that helped, even though you had to do your work to find the right person for you as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I had to. The insurance companies and certain doctors, they won't. They're doing their job, and so sometimes you know how things become, I guess, monotonous or they're just like routine or whatever. I can tell when someone's operating in that level of okay, this is just routine for you. I don't
Yeah.
trust that. I'm gonna go to find somebody else because I need somebody that's gonna care about what's going on with me. Because I
Yes.
don't have to like tell you about yourself in the name of Jesus. Like I don't want to have to do all of that. Like
Right.
I don't have to like, do what I had to do with my primary care and like, okay, well, I need you to do this. Like, and I don't like being the angry black woman in the doctor's office. Like,
Well, and you
ridiculous.
shouldn't have to, you know?
It's terrible how because not there. I have a friend of mine who I would tell her all of the things that I had to do, and she's like, I've never had to deal with that ever. And I'm
Mm-mm.
like, yeah, because you don't look like me.
Such a
Unfortunately,
shame.
that's just a
Yeah.
reality of infertility for people of color and black
Ugh, I
women.
hate that. I hate that. And it is always our hope in talking about all of this too, that, women who go ahead of us or, yeah, after us
Mhm.
will, hopefully experience something different. But if they don't, advocate for yourself.
Advocate, do all of the research for yourself, ask the questions, bring your binder if you need to, like whatever you got to
Yes.
do, because if you notice they're not listening to you, look into somebody else that might, because it's not gonna it's hard already to deal emotionally with what you're dealing with, but then you have someone that's in your face just not showing you that they care at all, and it's
Right.
it's hard to do that anyway. So when you go in, think about yourself. Don't think about how the doctor might treat you or whatever. Think about, okay, well, I already know where to put you, what box to put you in. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go elsewhere and things like
Right.
that. So
Yeah, for sure. So I have an idea how you're going to answer this one, but let's see, you might surprise me. So looking back, the years that you and your husband tried, what would you have said to yourself, your younger self, that maybe would have, helped you or, emotionally, mentally, or would have changed things for yourself throughout that process?
well, the first thing I would have said is don't stop praying. There were a lot of times where I'm just like, okay, Lord, what am I supposed to be learning right now? I don't get it. I don't understand. What did I do? And
Yeah.
so making sure that I was still in my word and praying and trusting God for all of the things, even the moments where it's like, okay, clearly there's just no good answer for it. It's just going to be all bad news. But because everything works for his good, I need to
Yeah.
trust him. Everything works so that he gets glory. I have to trust him. So, okay, even though I'm going through this terrible, terrible thing right now, whatever it is means that he's going to get the glory out of whatever happens at the end of this. Even if it does look bad, it's still him getting the glory out of it. So I need to trust him. So that was the first thing, is don't stop praying. Don't stop believing that the Lord has good for you and wants good for you, um,
It's
even in
good.
the moments where it doesn't look like that. And so
Yes.
that's the first thing. But then advocate for yourself. That part. Because
The
it's
spiritual
hard out here in
and
these
the
streets.
world.
It's hard out here in these streets because it's like people don't believe you when you say you're going through certain pains. People don't believe you when you're telling them that these things are hard or whatever. And then you have some of the folks that have never gone through anything try to tell you how to do all the things, and that part's hard too because it's like you've never dealt with this. How can you speak to this? Like so,
Exactly.
and like keeping my little attitude in check because ooh, sometimes you gotta tell people about themselves, and it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't cuss you out in the name of Jesus. That's not okay.
Yeah, I
So
mean it's I know I heard all kinds of things throughout the years on how I needed to handle my situation, or I mean the dumbest comments that Mondo and I would get about, oh well, I mean you do know how to do it, right? And all kinds of stupid. It's
how?
like you're not funny. You're not funny.
I responded to somebody one time because someone said that to me. I said, "Okay, tell me how you do it,"
Yeah.
and they were
Yes.
like, "Okay, mind your business then. What are you doing?"
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was telling somebody else the other day, like in the beginning when I was, I was shyer and our journey wasn't public. even to our friends, I found myself, when people would say, "When are you guys, going to have babies? Or are you trying?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah." We would always just kind of give a blanket general answer. And then
Mhm.
towards the end, when I became public and I just honestly got fed up with the stupid comments, I would just get right to them, right back to them, and
Mhm.
we both did. We're like, "Yeah, we're trying.
Mhm.
We're having a lot of practice." You
Yep.
know? So,
The
yeah.
weird part is when, so like after having miscarriages and things like that, when people ask you, "Oh, do you have kids?" That question,
Mm,
I hated that question because it was like, how do I answer it honestly? So we would
yeah.
just say, well, we have, depending on where we were in our journey, we have five babies in heaven, things like that. And so then people are just like, oh, that's, oh, wow. Because at
It's
first we would say no, and they're like, what are you waiting for? And I'm like, ooh, see, now you're about to bring
yeah.
something. You about to get Tamar BC. You don't want to do that. So
Right,
um,
right.
chill out. So we were like, we just started saying, oh, we have this many babies in heaven and stuff like that. And so they were like, oh, I'm so sorry, and things like that, which didn't make it easier, but it was still a better way to answer. And that might not work for everybody, but it worked for us. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, and also it teaches those people that you probably shouldn't ask that question, you know?
Let me introduce you to my baby or something. Like don't ask
Exactly.
kids and stuff. So
Exactly. Towards the end for me, I'm like, yeah, it's been this amount of years trying,
yeah.
you know? So,
And the
um,
faces that people have when you tell
yeah,
them how long you've been trying or how many babies you have in heaven, they're just like, I don't know what to say next.
yeah. They regret real quick that they even
Hmm.
asked that.
Yeah.
So, speak to other women who are watching this. They just found out they might have an issue that they're dealing with infertility. What, thinking about your journey, maybe what helped you, what hurt you along the way, what advice could you give to them?
Um, I'll just say, for one, don't let anyone tell you that it's not possible
Mm,
unless, I mean, you just know for sure that it's just like, okay, there's no way, shape, or form that this is going to happen. But at the same time, don't let anyone just like tell you something that's not true, is what I'm really mean to say. Because I got a lot of the, well, you have to lose weight or you're not going to be able to have a baby ever kind of thing. And clearly, I mean, I have lost weight, but I'm not the skinny girl that they wanted me to be to have a baby kind of thing. And
yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna ever be that girl anymore because I was a pretty skinny girl all the way up until all of the symptoms, which I didn't know were symptoms, started happening. And I think
Mm,
I had to happen like 2008, so I had to be like 21, 22 when the symptoms started for me. So
okay.
just get the answers for yourself. Trust God in all your journey, and just affirm yourself. um, gather yourself around people who are going to encourage you, and if you need to grieve, do it. If you need to cry, do it. If you have someone you can trust that will cry with you, call them. Don't be by yourself, because you can get very depressed, and I'm not even gonna act like depression doesn't come, or that it's not. It's one of those things where it's like people are like, oh, don't get depressed. You're going to.
Yeah.
It's how it is, but you do need
Mhm.
to have a good, some people around you. And if you don't have those people around you, try to find some help in some way, shape, or form. um, my whole situation with, even like I said, I was talking to you before this with the baby blues and stuff. I have some people that I know I can call, and so it's good that I'm like, okay, I can call this person right now, and they got my back. They can distract me. They can do it. And so make sure you have someone around you, someone that you can call or whatever, and um, encourage your significant others to get information for themselves, and to also um, tell them how they can help you. That was one thing that Derek and I had to deal with, was he didn't know how to help me, and he also didn't know how to ask me how to help me, and I didn't know how to tell him how to help me. And so
Yeah.
we had to work all of that out within the 4.5 years, and we're still working on that, of course. Um,
Because then
but
with a baby, it brings a whole bunch of other things I'm learning.
a whole other level of things, and we just got here. We only 5 weeks in, 5.5 weeks in with that.
Yeah,
So we're just like, yeah, okay, we have to communicate well. We
it's
took
huge.
personality tests and all that to just understand each other,
Good.
and so now we're definitely in a better place, way better place than we were even at the
Good.
beginning of all of this journey and stuff. Because
Good.
he went through his own like depression and grief and things like that too. A lot of times we don't talk about that. We don't talk about what the
Yeah,
men go through
it's
and stuff.
true.
He went through a lot, and because I went through it, emotionally and physically and things like that too. But they don't really have a community. We've kind of forced it upon ourselves and kind of like, gathered ourselves together and, do things like this, but they're not a lot. They're like, as
Right.
small as this community is way smaller for them. So
Yep.
he doesn't really have that many people that he can talk to. And who've gone through this anyway, gone through either miscarriage or infertility or things like that. So definitely
Yeah.
he's had to go through some things. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you have the man in your life, make sure he has someone or you guys communicate well, because it's hard to do that.
It is. It is hard. Communication is key. And even though, like for us, we've been married since 2010, we've been together for a couple years before that.
Mhm.
And all of it is still very hard. And you have to be on top of it. And then having a baby, it really does change things. And whether how it doesn't matter how long you've waited for a baby, the baby blues can affect you,
Mhm.
and you still you get through that and that fog and all of that. And so more than anything,
Mhm.
it's important that you have your mate to talk to and to communicate, or at least have, like you said, somebody else in the meantime, to be able to get that stuff out.
Yep. Yep. It's
Yeah,
hard. So you gotta have
it,
something, someone, some support,
it's true.
some way. And even
Super
Instagram
important.
has support for me, because I'm just like, okay, who can I watch on here? A lot of times I literally will get on Instagram just to watch her stories and stuff.
Oh,
Seriously, because I'm just like, she's so sweet. I need to leave
oh,
just for a second.
that is so precious. Yeah, it's so funny because I had that too. When I
Mhm.
got on Instagram, I didn't even do Instagram. I mean, I had it personal, but I really wasn't on it until
Yeah.
I started talking about my story. Then I was really more active on it.
Hmm. Sorry,
And
something in the background. I didn't know what it was. We're
uh,
like fixing things in my house.
oh, that's funny. Like, what just happened? Um, Tell people where they can find you on Instagram.
So on Instagram, I am Journey, and I don't know why I did this to myself. It's Journey to Baby Cooper, but there's an underscore between each word. So Journey underscore to Baby Cooper. Just put an underscore and between all of those. So that's where I am on Instagram. I'm also, my main page is Tamar Cooper, but just put a period between Tamar and Cooper. So yeah. And then I have an
Okay.
Instagram, I mean not Instagram, YouTube
Okay.
channel. Cooper DTV is where I am on YouTube. I haven't posted on there forever, but 2020 is in a couple days. So we're gonna
2021.
after
Yeah.
2020, 2021. Oh Lord, no, leave
Yeah.
2020. Y'all can have that.
Oh,
But
I
the new year
totally
is,
get that.
and I am going to be making more videos and talking about all the things.
Well, good.
Update.
Just know that what you're feeling right now, and I'm sure you've already, felt better and better throughout the weeks. But I know for me, I took a little hiatus from YouTube and I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was gone for like 6 months and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
So,
I,
you'll get to a point where you're like, I feel so much better.
yeah. That happened. We went through a lot of things, like I said, personally here, which is why we're moving and stuff now. But like when that stuff happened, I kind of put everything down, and it was like 6 months later, and then I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get on YouTube. I couldn't stay awake. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Right.
like,
And then the motivation was not
all
there.
all my pregnancy symptoms and stuff. I'm like, how are people doing this? How are they doing like pregnancy updates and stuff? And so I pretty much just told myself, I'm not going to, like, if I don't feel like doing it, I'm just not. It's okay. I had to be okay with that. And so now I'm
Totally.
like, okay, I'm in a better place now. I think I can try to update people now. And I try to do that on Instagram as much as I can. But, sometimes you need a nap.
Yes. Get it in when you can, for sure. Oh, thanks again, Tamar, for joining me and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. You're so sweet.
My pleasure.